I'm Alex Rocco. This beautiful structure behind me is a Baha'i house of worship. It's located on the shore of Lake Michigan in Wilmette, Illinois. It is one of many temples around the world where people gather to worship God and practice the idea of the oneness of mankind. In the last century, over 4 million people around the world have joined together in bringing to reality the vision of the Prophet Baha'u'llah, a vision of people from all races, religions, and backgrounds, creating a new world civilization based upon love and unity. A family comprised of all of mankind, a family of which I am a part. I too am a Baha'i, and I would like to introduce you to a few members of my family. The people you are going to meet in this program are a small segment of the American Baha'i community. Like their fellow Americans, these people are extremely diverse individuals, each with their own needs, lifestyles, and backgrounds. And it is they who will share with you what this faith is all about.
I think if you went around the world and you talk to people in the world and you ask them, what is your vision for the world? What do you really want for the world? I will bet that 99% of the people would come up very much with a Baha'i vision of what they would like to see happen in the world and what they would like to see the world be like.
Although we come from different races or different cultures, we can come together in diversity. Like I'm a Navajo and you're from another culture, or other people that come from other places. The old story of some of the Indians say that we were one people at one time, thousands and thousands of years ago. And the prophecies tell that we will come back together again when the time comes. And the Baha'is believe that this time has come.
It's very easy to practice the oneness of mankind when we're with people who are like us. You know, if we're all university graduates, or we're all doctors, or we're all lawyers, or we're all Indian chiefs, or whatever. It's very easy to be united under those circumstances. But when you call together a university professor and a farmer and a janitor and a lawyer and expect that these people find a common bond and a common unity, then it's much more difficult. And then when you translate that into racial and cultural terms, then it's even more difficult.
I cannot bond with you as a black man and you not being black based upon race. How am I going to bond? There is no bond. You know, I mean, if you white, I'm black. How can I bond with you based upon race? Race is not a universal principle based upon our skin color, you see. I cannot bond with you based upon our social and economic status, because mine is probably different from yours and different from everybody else's. Social and economic status is not a magnet that attracts us and is powerful enough to keep us together. It's got to be something stronger, something more powerful, and that's the power of the Holy Spirit. That's a universal law. That's a universal principle, the power of universal love, the power of universal peace, the power of universal education.
Baha'u'llah, for instance, tells you, he tells the world, he tells all people, to let your view be world-embracing. And what's beginning to happen in North America is that a generation of youth is really taking this seriously. Let your view be world-embracing. My view should not just be what I can see in Brooklyn or Los Angeles or an Indian reservation, but rather what the world really looks like.
Bombay, Cape May, Mandalay, Baffin Bay, Baghdad, Leningrad, Ashgabat, Trinidad, L.A., Norway, Paraguay, Monterey, Singapore, Ecuador, Bangalore, Baltimore. These are places in the world.
Baha'u'llah referred to mankind as the flowers of one garden and as the leaves of one tree. He also addressed many specific issues that mankind must face today in order for us to live in peace. Some are the obligation for each individual to investigate truth for him or herself, the need for universal education, the harmony between religion and science, the elimination of prejudice of all types, and the need for some form of world government with an international currency and language. Baha'u'llah doesn't call these social ideas or political theories. He says that these are spiritual principles for a new stage in man's social evolution. And to apply them to the world, Baha'u'llah introduced a whole new understanding of what religion means to man.
I believe in Moses. I believe in Muhammad. I believe in Jesus. And that's one of the problems our Christian brothers and sisters have with the Baha'is, is just they don't really understand that we believe in that divine spirit. We believe in the reality and in the message of Jesus Christ. I cannot be a Baha'i and not believe in that message, because I believe it comes from the same transforming, universal, unknowable, divine source that we call God, that Islam calls Allah.
I liken the Baha'i faith to a beautiful design that works today. And surely Buddhism, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, all the world religions are beautiful designs for society in those days and ages. And they still, if you take the essence of those designs, they still are beautiful, like beautiful antiques.
What happens is, in the course of time, people get deviated from the original teachings of Christ or Muhammad or Krishna, and tends to go by their own way of thinking, you know, and this is the cause of the major problems facing the religions and humanity these days. And the purpose of a new manifestation is actually to guide those people again to the right path, to the right direction, and where God wants us to be.
The reason why you see Christian killing Christian, Muslim killing Muslim, Muslim killing Hindu, and on and on and on in the world today is because of this lack of understanding and appreciation for the oneness of religion, and viewing religion as a progressive message given to mankind by one and the same God, that all the major religions of God come from that one same God, that all the people in the world are members of one race, the human race.
We don't have a way to be good people without religion. We were created to know God and to worship God. And so we need a way to do that. And so God has sent these different manifestations at different times to show us how to do that. They've never changed the teachings of how God should relate to man. They've only changed the teachings of how man should relate to man.
The greatest problems that mankind faces today are problems of humanity living together, the creation of an orderly world where all races, nations, religions can live in peace. And the brunt of the teachings of the Baha'i faith is directed precisely at that, so that the Baha'i faith offers a path, ideas and emotions which will help humanity achieve these goals.
The path that Dr. Kazemzadeh is referring to started in Persia in the mid-1800s, less than 150 years ago. To understand where this faith is going and how it got to the West, we have to see how it was born.
The 1800s were a time of profound change for mankind. In the West, the Industrial Revolution was exploding into the modern age. Great empires were beginning to lose their power. The philosophies of Freud, Darwin, and Marx were just coming into the world. At the same time, a global spiritual revival was taking place. From their study of prophecy, many religious leaders concluded the time had come for a divine teacher to guide mankind. In Shiraz, Persia, on May 23, 1844, in this room, a young man declared that he was the one mankind awaited. He took the name of the Bab, which in Arabic means the gate, and summoned humanity to follow him. News of the Bab spread like wildfire through Persia, and thousands joined him. But for the Muslim clergy, the threat to their power was too great. They denounced the Bab as a heretic and demanded that the government exterminate him. Within 6 short years, over 20,000 followers had been tortured and killed, paying with their lives for responding to the message of God. And in 1850, the Bab himself was hung on this barrack wall and shot in the hope that his religion would die out. But throughout his ministry, the Bab insisted that he was only the herald for one greater yet to come. In 1853, the Bab's greatest follower, once a nobleman in the Shah's court, sat chained in a dungeon beneath the city of Tehran, surrounded by thieves, assassins, and the foul stench of a sewer which ran at his feet. In this rank darkness, the light of revelation broke upon him. These were his words.
I was but a man like others, asleep upon my couch, when lo, the breezes of the all-glorious were wafted over me, and taught me the knowledge of all that hath been. This thing is not from me, but from one who is almighty and all-knowing.
His name is Baha'u'llah, which in Arabic means glory of God, and for Baha'is, he is the one whom the Bab referred to as the Lord of Hosts, the promised one of all ages. Like the Bab, Baha'u'llah suffered greatly. He and his family were banished from Persia and exiled throughout the Turkish Empire, until finally he was brought to the fortress city of Akka on the shores of Palestine, Israel, the land of Abraham and Moses, of Jesus and Muhammad, and now Baha'u'llah, a prisoner in the Holy Land. During this time, Baha'u'llah revealed laws, prayers, and teachings which form the sacred scripture of the Baha'i faith. From his cell, he wrote to the rulers of the world, calling on them to eliminate war from the planet and usher in the kingdom of God. And to ensure that men would not again divide and corrupt the faith of God after his death, Baha'u'llah established a written covenant and gave to the world his eldest son, Abdul-Baha, a living sign of that covenant. From the age of 9, Abdul-Baha endured over 50 years of imprisonment. Chained, banished, tortured, beaten, his life was a sacrifice to his father. And when Baha'u'llah ascended in 1892, his life became a sacrifice to mankind. In the reality of a world growing harsher, he was to be the living example of Baha'u'llah's teaching, the embodiment of love, unity, and brotherhood, and his task was to bring his father's message to the world.
Because of the universal character of the Baha'i faith, it was inevitable that these teachings would have to be brought to the Western world. And it was, in fact, during the ministry of Abdul-Baha, in the opening years of this century, that first contacts were made through Americans who went to Palestine to meet Abdul-Baha, and some Persians who came over to the United States to spread the message of the Baha'i faith. And then in 1911 and in 1912, Abdul-Baha himself came to the United States. He spent some 8 months in this country, traveling from coast to coast, speaking in churches, at conferences. And the establishment of the Baha'i community really dates from that trip of Abdul-Baha's. Later on, Baha'i communities were established in every country of Latin America, and also in all the European countries, so that by now the Baha'i community, some 4.5 million people, are spread virtually through the whole world.
Abdul-Baha passed from this world in 1922, but the path which began with his father remained clear. The burden of maintaining God's covenant was now put on the shoulders of Abdul-Baha's grandson. Only 24 at the time and a student of Oxford University, Shoghi Effendi would spend the next 36 years of his life maintaining the unity of the faith and developing the world-embracing institutions envisioned by Baha'u'llah. In 1963, national Baha'i assemblies from around the world gathered in Haifa, Israel, the Baha'i World Center, to elect the Universal House of Justice, the supreme Baha'i institution. Given its authority by Baha'u'llah himself and elected from the entire Baha'i world, this 9-member body is the living channel for the operation of God's will on earth today. So long as men exist, the flow of divine guidance shall never cease to operate, fulfilling for Baha'is the ancient biblical prophecy of the day that will not be followed by night. It is now the Universal House of Justice which nurtures, safeguards, and guides the Baha'i world community in preparing the ark of salvation for mankind, the Baha'i world order.
The Universal House of Justice is a living institution. Its seat is on Mount Carmel in Haifa, Israel. It has offered the world its wisdom and knowledge, as well as an opportunity to put the Baha'i world to the test. In 1985, the Universal House of Justice issued a statement on peace, addressed to all the peoples of the world, and it was presented to religious, social, and political leaders, including 140 heads of state. The statement analyzes major obstacles and certain steps that must be taken to establish peace. And like Baha'u'llah over 100 years ago, the Universal House of Justice called on the world leaders to join in council to eliminate war once and for all.
Last year, the International Governing Council of the Baha'i Faith issued a statement regarding peace, and they said that the great peace that all mankind had longed for is at long last within his reach, and that the question or the choice that we are faced with is whether or not that peace will be achieved through an ordeal or horrors too unimaginable to even think of, or whether we have reached a stage in maturity where we can bring about peace through an act of conscious will. And that's the choice of all mankind. And as you travel throughout the world, as you live abroad, you really feel and come to understand deeply that mankind is one, that the people of the world are one, that a woman, be she in a small village, with no running water, loves her children with the same depth of feeling that a university graduate in the United States does, and wants for her child the same thing, and wants peace and wants harmony. And this is all mankind.
A dramatic, fantastic thing happened when this spaceship went out into space. The astronauts turned around and took a picture of the Earth. We saw for the first time the Earth as one thing. Not separated things chopped up by lines and political boundaries and different races. And we saw our home.
For Baha'is, one of the building blocks of peace is a process called consultation, used in everyday situations between family and friends or with larger groups that need to work together. Baha'i consultation makes differences of opinion become a source of unity instead of a point of contention.
Baha'i consultation involves a number of principles that are not always involved in other kinds of discussion or consultation. One of those is that each person coming into the consultation must be freed from all attachment to ideas, concepts, and so on, and come pure and open to a consultation. That's one principle. Another principle is that each person in the group, in the consulting group, needs to have an equal opportunity to speak. There may be loud ones, quiet ones, aggressive, passive, but in Baha'i consultation, everybody needs to have an equal chance. Thirdly, Baha'i consultation involves the application of very consciously defined principles. So, for instance, you want to discuss the social and economic situation of this community and try to figure out what can be done, what can somebody do. Instead of just speaking off the top of your hat, and everybody coming from a totally different set of principles anyway. You have a set of principles you can look at. Those are the Baha'i teachings. Abdu'l-Baha says the spark of truth comes from the clash of differing opinions. So in the Baha'i faith, you don't have conformity where everybody has to kowtow to one idea or to one person's strength or something. There can be lots of variety of opinion. You can have everything from one end of the spectrum to another. But eventually there's a unifying and a harmonizing agent. And that is through the use of Baha'i principles, the purity of spirit and thought, and the equal opportunity for each person to contribute.
Consultation is the process through which Baha'is begin to translate lofty spiritual principles into the real world. A school in Haiti, a sewing class in Zimbabwe, or a literacy program in India. Each one is a small but essential element of Baha'u'llah's world order. And in Houston, Texas, Consultation produced the Yellow Rose Project.
The Yellow Rose is a love story. It is a sincere and complete attempt to prove, no, not to prove, to show that we are all truly one human family, and to put that into practice and not just words. We have done this through a series of service projects, and one of which has been our health care fair that we've held on the Alabama-Coshada Indian Reservation.
The Yellow Rose Project is an outreach kind of program specifically to the Indian Reservation here in Texas, the Alabama-Coshada Reservation. And it is not specifically designed to be a project to teach the Baha'i faith, but it is designed to aid the Indian people.
The most likely place for something like this to occur was either on the Alabama-Coshada Reservation and or with the Antigua people in El Paso. As a result of my expressing concerns and everything, the Baha'is between Dallas and Fort Worth and Houston gained an interest in especially the Alabama-Coshada Reservation.
And so medical professionals from across the state volunteered their time to do a medical pre-screening for the people on the reservation, sort of like preventive medicine.
The Yellow Rose Healthcare Fairs, which I've been a part of the designing body of, are information and referral sorts of meetings or gatherings where we provide information on all these problems, and we do some blood testing for diabetes, and we do blood pressure checks and show videotapes on combating alcoholism.
So what I had outlined to Andrene and others down there and some from here was that there needed to be a long-term commitment made of working with the reservation people. Primarily because I had learned that one of the best approaches to dealing with people, especially with tribal people, was sort of on an indirect approach, more service-oriented, but service based upon need, and service based on awareness, and service based upon understanding.
When we do these things, we keep totally in mind at all times total respect for the other individual's point of view and culture and outlook on life. So we are solving a problem together, not separate entities.
When I describe the place when I'm away, I talk about it as a community center, a resource center for the community. It serves that purpose. Where we stand apart is the belief in the Baha'i faith, the belief in Baha'u'llah as the promised one for this day. That in itself makes it different. What that means is that we have certain ideals. We believe certainly in the one God. We believe in the unity of religions. We believe in equality of the races, of the sexes. We believe in universal education. And we are committed to living a life that promotes that belief within our community.
Good morning. Another day begins on Radio Baha'i WLGI, Hemingway, South Carolina. WLGI is licensed to the Louis Gregory Baha'i Institute as a non-commercial educational radio station by the Federal Communications Commission.
That's right, y'all. This is Radio Baha'i WLGI, and it's Saturday morning one more time. This is Laura Shell, the jazz lady, bringing y'all Saturday morning jazz. There are more Baha'is in the state of South Carolina than any place other than, I think it's California. Also, there's been such great suffering in South Carolina. Slave ships arrived at South Carolina. At first shores they set foot on were in South Carolina. There's been a lot of praying, sure enough hard praying done here in South Carolina. Lord, help us, free us, liberate us, bless us. You know. So I think Baha'u'llah is going to raise America up from its very lowest point to display his glory and his power. He takes the weakest and elevates.
Baha'i children don't learn prejudice in their Baha'i communities. They learn right away that everybody is one and they're all part of a family. And the people have many different colors and many different backgrounds, but the children never realize that until they go into their schools or their personal communities. They don't learn that in the Baha'i community.
In Florence, South Carolina, where racial barriers are among the strongest in the nation, these Baha'is, both black and white, in the home of an Iranian, celebrate the birth of the faith which has brought them together.
All praise be unto thee, O Lord. Ordain for us from thy presence that which will comfort the hearts of the sincere among thy servants. Glorified art thou, O God. Thou art the creator of the heavens and the earth, and that which lieth between them. Thou art the sovereign Lord, the most holy, the almighty, the all-wise. Magnified be thy name, O God. Send down upon them who have believed in God and in his signs a mighty succor from the presence of such as...
Abdu'l-Baha called racial unity the most challenging issue facing America. Far beyond tolerance, he claimed that the survival of this land would depend on blacks and whites uniting in love and fellowship. So across the nation, Baha'is actively cross racial boundaries in all sorts of activities. Here in Atlanta, these folks simply enjoy a picnic. And for youth in San Diego, dancing is the way they express their unity.
Well, I think if you dance, you know, people will look at it and say, wow, they're out there doing a dance that no one can do or can do. And, you know, they look at the message that we're trying to say within the dance, and the people can get along, things like that.
Our main goal is to teach peace. And the way we try to do this is with our dances, because we're really diverse. And we're just trying to teach everybody that we can all get along together.
I've been a Baha'i about a year and a half, but just the ideals of peace and some of the equalities, political equalities and racial equalities and equality of the sexes are things that I've always believed in, and the onenesses of God, man, and religion. So when I heard it, I heard it, recognized it as the truth, essentially.
In the Baha'i faith, there are no rituals. Instead, each individual and culture is encouraged to bring to the faith their own gifts and talents to share with one another. But there are certain things all Baha'is must do. Baha'u'llah instructs Baha'is to pray daily, to lead a chaste and holy life, to engage oneself in an occupation. In fact, Baha'u'llah says that work done in the spirit of service is recognized as a form of worship.
It doesn't say that work is worship. It's only when it's done in the spirit of service that work becomes worship. And to that effect, your life can become one prayer, one continuous prayer, if you can achieve that level of service.
For the first time in my life, I'm happy to be a servant, because before I became a Baha'i, I hated the term servant, that I had to serve someone else in order to earn a living. But now I realize that the earth that is lower than me is really greater than I am, because that's where we get all our sustenance from, is from the earth. So that's the joy that I get from being a Baha'i. And every day it's a greater joy.
Proclaiming this to be the age of maturity for the human race, Baha'u'llah eliminated the need for clergy to guide people. Instead, he made each individual responsible for their own spiritual development. And to guide their community life, instead of individual leaders, Baha'is elect spiritual assemblies. These 9-member councils, which are chosen from among all the Baha'is by the Baha'is, work as a single unit to guide the community. Once a year, Baha'is gather to vote for their local and national assemblies. And every 5 years, the 140 national assemblies gather in Haifa, Israel, to elect the Universal House of Justice, the supreme governing body. Today, there are over 1,600 spiritual assemblies in the United States and more than 70,000 localities where Baha'is live throughout the world. Although the Baha'i community activities reflect the diversity of the entire human race, there are certain regularities. One, a celebration of holy days, as we saw in South Carolina. And once every 19 days, Baha'is gather all around the world to get together for a spiritual feast of fellowship, worship, and a chance to consult about the teachings and the progress of the faith.
The 19-day feast is divided into 3 portions. The first portion is the devotional portion, in which we have readings from the writings of the Prophet founder Baha'u'llah and his son Abdu'l-Baha.
Oh my God, unite the hearts of thy servants and reveal to them thy great purpose. May they follow thy commandments and abide in thy law. Help them, O God, in their endeavor, and grant them strength to serve thee. Leave them not to themselves, but guide their steps by the light of thy knowledge, and cheer their hearts by thy love. Verily, thou art their helper and their Lord.
The second portion is an administrative portion, in which there are announcements from the International Center in Haifa, Israel, or the National Center in Wilmette, Illinois, or local announcements from New York or any other announcements from the states which are important enough, which we think that the Baha'i community here in New York City would be interested in. The last portion is the social portion, in which we all just have our tea and coffee and cookies together. And in New York City, this is the best time for me, really, because New York is so big that many a time we don't see each other except for once in 19 days.
Religion really is the only guidance which people can turn to, which gives us a source of inspiration for going beyond the self-motive, going beyond and recognizing the need to live in a society based on love and not self-interest. And there's no ideology right now that bases itself in loving thy neighbor as thyself. And religion really has historically been, in its origins, that guidance that allows man to live in a society based on something beyond self-interest.
Well, you know, in some faith, it talks about a person being born in sin and shaped in iniquity. And so from birth, a person really feels worthless. And it's all through your life that you're trying to overcome your sinful nature. That's all you're really trying to do. But as a Baha'i, you're told that you created a noble.
I came from Norway. I was attracted to the Native American sea, if you like. You know, being a Norwegian, I traveled around there, and I never felt so white in my whole life. It was awful. They didn't open up to me. They didn't talk to me. You know, they didn't understand my quest. They didn't understand their own sacred writings.
Europeans who have come to America and have taken, I guess you might say, control of economics, in some cases of the military, that the holistic thinking people, the reasons they don't exert, the same aggression is because they respect the differences of each other. Whereas if you look at the linear basis, the linear people, it's like you have to think and act almost alike or the same way to be accepted. And we exert that influence on other people. That's just why, you know, our people historically have been treated, because they didn't understand our language, they didn't understand our religion, they didn't understand our way of life, and we were called pagan, and they didn't understand how we accepted and appreciated Mother Earth, the fact that it was Mother Earth who nourished us, and it was Mother Earth to whom we would return when we were finished in this life. All of that became rather insignificant.
Far from being insignificant, the American Indian is destined to play a major role, not only in America, but in the entire world. As Native Americans increasingly take leadership roles in the American Baha'i community, their gifts and talents begin to shed light on the entire Baha'i world.
It was seen right from the beginning to be a place where a prophecy could actually be consciously worked on and fulfilled, and that was the prophecy of Abdu'l-Baha, who wrote in his Tablets of the Divine Plan that should the original inhabitants of this country become educated in the divine teachings, they would become so illumined as to shed light to all regions. So that was their idea. How are we going to shed light to all regions if we don't even have a way of coming together and of learning these spiritual teachings of the new age?
I guess it's sort of like a school, educational place, where you come together and learn about what the Baha'i faith is all about. That is probably the main purpose, and also learn about our own culture, the Indian culture.
Particularly to serve the native people, so that it would be a place that would reflect their culture, that would look like, you know, the life that they were used to. It would be a place where they could speak their own language, where they could hear the Baha'i writings in their own language, where they could do things their own way. They could hold a Baha'i feast in a Navajo way or in a native way. This is the Feast of Light. Baha'is welcome all the people to this beautiful place, the Native American Baha'i Institute.
My Navajo family. Before I became a Baha'i, I never knew we were related. My New York family, my South Carolina family, San Diego family, family I still haven't met, but I know we are related. You see, we're all part of the human family, and being in love with that family and learning how to live together is what the Baha'i faith is really all about. And while the Baha'i faith might not be for everyone, over 4 million people around the world have fused their hearts and minds to live as one family and have committed themselves to creating a world in which the forces of love, not hate, govern the planet. I want to thank you for taking the time to meet my family.
Listen, can you hear the sound? Hearts beating, all the world around. Down in the valley, out on the plain, everywhere around the world, a heartbeat sounds the same. Black or white, red or tan, it's the heart of the family of man. Whoa, it's beating away. Whoa, it's beating away. Whoa, it's beating away. Listen, can you hear the sound? Laughter, all the world around.